What's up, Radiant Icons, and welcome back to Dare to Be Iconic, the podcast made for icons daring to be themselves. I'm your host, Amanda Policelli, and today's Daytime Sesh is all about confidence. That's right, we are talking about the core foundation of what Dare to Be Iconic is all about. So, how can you dare to be yourself in a world that loves to tell us who we should be, how we should dress, so on and so forth? How do you walk into a room with unwavering confidence and being so comfortable in your skin? How do you do that? Well, today we are going to recap my 30-day challenge of daring to be confident. Yes, that little challenge that we did twice this year so far. I am recapping all my thoughts here today so that we can all dare to be iconic together because we are daring to be ourselves. So let's get into it. But before we do that, I dare you to connect with me on socials. And if you haven't already, make sure to grab your copy of my journal, Break Up with the Past, Fall in Love with the Future, your 5-step guide in turning your pain into power. And all that information is linked in the show notes below. All right, Radiant Icons. So, as I mentioned in our little introduction, we are talking about confidence. And as I mentioned beforehand, confidence is the root of what Dare to Be Iconic is all about. Because when I say dare to be iconic, I basically mean dare to be yourself. How do you start that confidence journey? Well, I'm going to talk about everything that I learned on my 30-day challenge of daring to be confident. And it couldn't have come at a better time in my life because I feel like, and a lot of people say this, that when you are in your mid 20s, your body it changes more than it did in your early 20s, and shit starts to get real, like really real. And we're gonna dive deep into that so I can warn you what no one warned me about when I turned 25. But no, honestly, I'm gonna spill the tea on how we got to where we are today. Because right now, at this time in my life, I am truly very confident in who I am because I've embraced every little aspect of what makes Amanda Amanda. But it wasn't always that way. It really wasn't, y'all. So, we're going to spill the tea about all that today and how you can dare to be confident in your everyday life. So, are you ready, Radiant Icons? Because your tea time sesh is starting now. Okay, so the Daring to Be Confident challenge. Let me tell you, I was not like, we're just going to be open and transparent this entire time. I mean, that's what the whole point of Dare to Be Iconic is about, right? Like, being open and transparent on the platform that I have. And I'm going to be honest, it was 30 days, right, of daring to be confident and following the steps that I set out. Okay. I was not I did not do all the steps continuously. Like, I did not commit all the way through with all of the steps. There is one step in particular that I only did for 11 days. I want to say 11 days. It definitely probably was 11 days. But I'm going to be so for real. Not all of the steps that I had in the Daring to Be Confident challenge I completed throughout the 30 days. I stopped halfway through because it got too much at times. Life was very, very hectic for me in mid-April to May. As you guys listened to the last podcast episode, you would know that we dealt with a lot of anxiety and panic and stress in May. And Daring to Be Confident did help somewhat, but it got too much for this specific step. So let's talk about the step of writing down 3 things you love about yourself and telling your iconic bestie about it. I had 4 girlfriends that I did this challenge with to hold me accountable. And what I learned is that I think I bit off too much than I can chew. I think I spreaded myself a little bit too thin with this challenge. But specifically that step, it is not realistic for me to write down 3 things I love about myself every day. I think I could have brought it back and maybe done twice a week, once a week, so that I can build up my tolerance of having that self reflection time because it's so important. And it was very vital at this part in my life while I was dealing with a lot of insecurities. But y'all, oh my God, I could not commit to doing it all 30 days. Like I just couldn't. I physically and mentally could not. So I think when I redo this challenge, I'm going to be a little bit more realistic on the expectations that I set for myself and you all, which is, maybe combine that journaling with the gratitude of the three things you love about yourself. Maybe do it once or twice a week. Like I realized when I didn't fully commit to it for all 30 days that those three things I love about myself, I was getting really hard on myself and going back into those perfectionist tendencies of, oh my God, Amanda, like you need to do X, Y, and Z. You need to be perfect at this. Girl, it's a 30-day challenge on how you can better your confidence, how you can go on this boosting confidence journey so within you can feel better about yourself. But I was so stuck in these old patterns of wanting it to be perfect and wanting to do everything right. Here's the news flash: you are challenging yourself to look within and dig deep. So, besides the commitment part, let's talk about what I learned from writing out three things that I love about myself and sharing it with my friends. So, when my girlfriends and I wrote down our three things, I was like, you know what? Let's challenge ourselves and let's do two personality and one physical. Because I know for me, it was going to be very difficult for me to say something that I was physically comfortable with in my body. And then it was going to be easier for me to write two personality things. And I was like, oh, great. This is going to be perfect. And the more as I was going through it for those 11 days that I stayed consistent in it, at first, you do the surface level stuff. Oh, I love my eyes. Oh, I love my hair. I love that I'm really funny. I love how smart I am. Like all these surface level things that we already know that you love about yourself. But the more you do it, the more specific you have to get, right? You have to dig deeper and have that self reflection. So when I did these three things that I love about myself and challenging myself to pick one physical trait because I knew that would be the hardest, the more I got into it, the more I was forced to look within and dig deep and to really truly think about, okay, Amanda, what are some things that maybe you neglected that don't come to mind right away that you actually do love about yourself? Or what are some things that you want to love about yourself that you realize, hey, like I kind of dismiss that part of my body, or I kind of disassociate with this part of my personality because X, Y, and Z. And the more I was able to challenge myself with those specific prompts, the more I was able to be self aware of some aspects of myself that I kind of neglected and put to the back burner and didn't give as much love to. It's so much easier for me to say the things that I'm like, oh yeah, I know I'm funny. Oh yeah, I know I'm smart. Oh yeah, I know I'm bold. Okay, yeah, but give me something new. Give me something that you're scared to talk about. And the more I got vulnerable with myself, the more I was able to create connections and a deeper relationship with my besties because I was opening up to myself, and then I was challenging myself to talk about the stuff that's really scary to my besties, which was allowing me to create some type of common thread, even if they aren't able to fully relate to one aspect. So there is one part of me that I'm always uncomfortable with. I am not the most comfortable with my arms. I just don't like how they look. I've tried everything. I've tried doing the weights. I've tried doing the Pilates for the strength training. But no matter what I do, my arms will always be something I'm insecure about. It's probably one of my biggest insecurities on my body, apart from my eczema. But we are all pretty much aware how my relationship with eczema is. But the more I was able to dig deep as to why I'm not as confident or comfortable with showing off my arms, I was able to uncover some really interesting things that I honestly didn't even think about. And when I opened up to my friends about it, I was able to create a common thread with them, whether it's, they can relate to that specific part, like if they also are insecure about their arms, or allowed them to really think about something different on their body or in their personality that, brought up some emotions for them. And being able to have that open and honest conversation with your friends and just feeling like you're not alone on this journey of just trying to figure out how to love yourself better and fully embrace every little thing about yourself makes the journey less scary. Now, I know I say all the time that the Dare to Be Iconic journey is not just an individual journey, it is a collective journey. And one of my friends, Danny, which I think was episode 6, I want to say it was 6, but she basically said that let your friends be your mirror. And I think that is so relevant to this daring to be confident challenge, because why we are daring to be ourselves, why we are daring to be iconic and loving every little imperfection of ourselves. We can get really hard on ourselves. I mean, that's just regular human nature, right? Like, we are always going to be our hardest critics. Always, no matter what. And yes, we should give ourselves more grace. Yes, we should be kinder to ourselves, but that's a lot easier said than done. But being able to take in the words of what Danny had told me, which is let your friends be your mirror. I was able to apply that concept on this journey when it came to having those hard conversations about things that I don't like to talk about, which is the things that I'm insecure about on my body. Personality wise, we've fully accepted who we are. But body wise, physically wise, there will always be something on me that I will not be 100% confident with. But I need to start loving it, and I need to start realizing that I'm not alone in this journey. No one, no one is perfect. Even the most perfect person you can think of. And I know we all have those people that we are thinking of, oh my God, like they're so perfect. I can name one person right now that we probably all know who, who in my mind I am thinking of, but like they are not perfect. They don't love every single thing about themselves, whether that's physically, personality wise, like anything, right? But being able to think of, let my friends be that mirror in that moment when I'm being vulnerable, when I'm opening up to them about stuff that makes me feel not as confident, and I'm trying to love myself, shows so much about who you are as a person. And it allows you to really want to propel forward and be motivated in continuing out this journey. Being able to know that you are not alone when you're figuring shit out, probably the best feeling, right? Because at times it can feel so isolating when you're just trying to figure out life, when you're trying to figure out who you are. But being able to have people that you trust and that you love and that you're able to have these like really deep conversations with makes everything worthwhile. Furthermore, let's go to one of the most important points of this challenge is going back to your why. Now, I've been very open and honest about my not my confidence struggles, but I would say my eczema struggles. Specifically in episode 4, The Secret to Living Your Most Iconic Life, which I will link in the show notes below if you haven't listened to it. I do have to say it's probably one of my favorite episodes. It's talking about that dare to be iconic mindset. Confidence is such a big factor of that mindset, but going back into my why. Whenever you go on a transformative self improvement journey like this one, even if it's just for 30 days and you decided to dip your toe into the pool and like kind of see how it is so important to go back to your why, because I think it's kind of like a fine line. You're tiptoeing sometimes when you're talking about, or at least for me with my experience with my body, it can get to an unhealthy obsession of wanting to look a certain way for X, Y, and Z purposes. Since I was a little girl, I've always had body image issues. And I think it started in, I want to say like second or third grade. And as we all know from my social media, um, I love to show off certain parts of my body. I'm fully, I think, embraced every aspect of how I look, but it wasn't always like that. I'm still insecure about my arms, as we all know, but I'm always been insecure about my body shape, my body type. It's not what the traditional Hollywood aesthetic would think is accepting or pleasing to them, right? I will never be what Hollywood deems as beautiful, or at least when I was growing up, because now we're a little bit more accepting of different beauty types and shapes, and I think that's amazing and that's so beautiful and that's so vital. But when I was younger, especially in second and third grade, the body types that were being glorified did not look anything like mine. And being in a performing background, the smaller you were, the better. And for me, it was always this mental and physical battle of trying to be what society deemed as beautiful. And it took a while to gain that self esteem and that high self concept, which we're still struggling with. But getting back to my why, I didn't want to go back to these unhealthy habits that I had picked up when I was younger of trying to attain a certain body image or look. I started seeing that within myself, but I started seeing the thoughts pop back in, specifically when it went to my eczema. As we all know, I am a perfectionist. And for anyone who's a perfectionist, they'll know like it's so hard trying to break those habits of wanting to just be perfect. On this daring to be iconic journey for me, I know a big thing I say is be imperfectly iconic. It's so freeing when you do, but at times it's very hard, especially from the background that I come in with this, perfectionist tendencies. I want everything to be X, Y, and Z perfect to a T. And while we're trying that, I noticed that when my eczema, having the worst flare up I've ever had at the beginning of this year, January 2024, it's been 7 years since I've ever experienced a flare up like that, but I just didn't know what was going on with my body and my legs because it was on my legs. It was the worst flare up I've, again, ever experienced in my life. But seeing my body change overnight and seeing these big red spots on my legs and just feeling so ugly and so down on myself on how I looked and something that I couldn't control, right? Because eczema is something that you cannot cure. It's something that you have no control over. And someone who loves to have control over everything, it is so hard. It was the hardest mental battle and physical battle I've ever had was at the beginning of this year, dealing with my skin, in my mind, basically betraying me because it was like overnight my legs just changed. I didn't recognize what I was looking at in the mirror. And all the thoughts that I had about myself were not nice thoughts at all. And I'm not proud of the things I thought about myself. I don't wish it upon anyone. It was really hard, and I was like, how do I get out of this hole? How do I dig myself out? And like the more I was talking to my girlfriends about it, the more they were able to open up to me on like things that they were insecure about on their body. Like even if they couldn't relate to eczema, there were other things for them physically that they were dealing with. And I was like, how can we all combat these insecurities together? How can we become more confident in who we are? And that's how the Daring to Be Confident challenge was birthed, basically, was because I, one, didn't want to go back to that perpetuous cycle of negative thoughts about myself. I wanted to break it right then and there. Two, I realized that there was really a problem that we needed a solution to. And if we all are feeling this insecure and uncomfortable in our skin, how can we collectively go on a journey to love ourselves? Because that's what my whole platform is about. How can we do better? And how can we perpetuate a feeling of and happiness and comfortability in our bodies together, right? Also, I don't like doing things alone when it comes to challenges. I feel like I'm more motivated when I'm with someone that I know and love, right? That was my why. My why is I wanted to better myself and I saw a problem that wasn't being fixed and I was like, "You know what? I've used my voice this far in life on my platform. Why not continue it with the challenge? And why not see how it goes?" And that was my why and that's why we started the Daring to Be Confident challenge. And I think it's turned out pretty well. I think it was pretty successful overall. I definitely noticed some things such as the one I mentioned before. Like that was the biggest lesson, making sure I don't spread myself too thin, that I'm a little bit more realistic in things that I expect, to do for 30 days. And self reflection was so important because it brought up emotions in myself and memories that I disassociated with and kind of forgot. So even though I wasn't continuous in that one specific step, because all the other steps All the other steps in this challenge, honestly, were a breeze. It was so easy. But writing the 3 things I loved about myself was the most challenging part of this challenge. And it really opened my eyes to things that I can work on and do better. It really allowed me to see myself in a different light. And I definitely think coming out of it that I've not only learned a lot about myself, but I'm more confident. And I realize that when I have negative thoughts about, oh, I don't look cute in this photo, I hate that angle of myself, why do I look this way? Or, oh my God, Amanda, like you are literally too much. Like, because I have this fear of being too much for people sometimes, but I'm imperfectly iconic. But, like that specific step in this challenge truly allowed me to have the self reflection that I think I neglected for a while. Because when I journal, I love a good prompt and I love just writing what's on my mind. And I have a gratitude journal with the manifestation journal that I also do. And we will talk about that in the next episode. I promise you, we will not forget to talk about manifestation delusion. But I think when I do my regular journaling at the end of the day, sometimes I may skirt around the deeper and harder conversations that I need to have with myself. And by forcing myself to really look within and go beneath the surface level, it opened my eyes to a lot of things that I was neglecting within myself. And it made me realize a lot about who I am and what I can handle and what I need to pour more love back into. I think that specific step is something that I will take with me for the rest of my life because it's going to force me to think deeper about who I am. And who would I be if I keep telling you guys, dare to be you, dare to be iconic, if I don't continue on in this journey of self improvement and self reflection? Because, like I've said multiple times before, like I am not perfect, I am imperfectly iconic. And I own all my failures and I own all my triumphs and I own all the little in between moments of my life. And I share them here so that we can all learn from them because there are universal lessons. And I think the universal lesson with confidence is that you have to have self reflection, even when it's sticky and icky and it's the stuff that you don't want to talk about. Right there in the ugly, in the hard parts, is where you're going to learn the most about yourself. And that's where your confidence skyrockets. The easy and the fun parts, oh my God, of course, that's the most amazing parts of life. But when you think about it, the hard shit is when you learn the most about yourself. It always is. When you go through struggles, that's why turning your pain into power is one of the biggest like lessons that I love to talk about because it's really in those hard times where you can turn it into a source of strength is where you learn what you are capable of. And I think that's the same concept when it comes to confidence. It's when you take the time to have those hard conversations with yourself. It's when you talk about the stuff that's not surface level and you dig down deep and you really find out who you are and you start embracing it. Because the whole point of daring to be yourself, daring to be iconic, is loving every little part of yourself, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. And that's the secret to confidence. The secret to confidence is being able to talk about the hard shit, to look within, and challenge yourself to start loving it. It's easy for us to love the good parts about us, right? The good, shiny parts that we put on display on social media. But those hard parts that we either hide behind a mask or we push that down, when we face it, that's when we learn the most about ourselves. That's when we dare to be iconic. That's when we dare to be confident. That's when you dare to be yourself. All right, Radiant Icons, that is your tea time sesh for today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, don't forget to leave a review, leave a rating, share it with your friends, share it on social media. Honestly, anything and anything you want to do, please do it. And if you do share it on social media, make sure to tag me. My socials, again, are in the show notes below. And let's talk about next week, shall we? Because I am so excited. We are talking about manifestation and delusion. And as most of you know, whom are listening to this. I am the queen of delusion. I solely live off of delusion. And look at where we are, baby. We are running our own business. But honestly, delusion is the solution. It is the resolution of making your dreams a reality because whatever you want in life, you can have. And delusion is the secret to it with a little bit of manifestation. So I am revealing all my manifestation techniques and routines and all that good stuff in next week's episode. So make sure to stay tuned. And anyway, I will talk to you guys next week. Remember, Radiant Icons, dare to be iconic. Bye.